All right. So, like I said, today we're going to be working on different things that you can do in Microsoft Excel to analyze bulk data. We're going to start with a small orders table, like you see here in front of me. This is just a small table that I created. Let's say you work at a company and they're in their, first couple months and they just had some orders come in, right? So you have a column here for customer ID. As you guys know, when you shop online, you normally have to sign up when you want to buy things online at a particular website, and you're assigned a customer ID, and that is a unique value that is only assigned to you. No one else that shops with that particular website will have that customer ID. Oftentimes, you can use your email address, but in the background, they're actually normally assigning you a customer ID, which is a numeric number. So in this case, I have some customer IDs that I made up here. Note that some of the customer IDs, because this is an orders table, some of the customer IDs, like this one here, 233, notice that they have several orders. This particular one has, I believe, 4 orders, it looks like. And so we have customer ID, we have the order ID. So this is when they placed an order. This is the number that was assigned to that order, the order date, the item code. So whatever they purchased, this is the code that, normally a business would have like a code that would correlate to each item that they sell. Here's the value. We're going to have a column here for returned yes or no. So we'll talk about this one in a second. I left it blank for a reason. We're going to add a little bit of coding here that only allows you to input yes or no. It doesn't allow any other options other than yes or no. You can also have a blank potentially, but actually, no, you wouldn't. It'd either be yes or no. And so we're going to work on that. That's going to be called data validation. So we'll look at that in a second. Um, Here you have ship city. So this is the city that the item shipped to, and then the state that the items shipped to. So we'll go ahead and start with, just 1 second. I got to let a couple people in. There we go. So we'll go ahead and start with showing how we can use what we call data validation. Again, so data validation, you guys have all seen drop-down menus where you're, maybe filling out a survey and it asks you, did you enjoy the breakfast on the hotel? Yes or no. And you can click a button and select yes or no. And the only options are yes or no. You can't input maybe, you can't put input, I liked the cheese, but I didn't like the eggs or whatever the case is. So you only have two options. And so it helps to make sure that you have clean data because you don't want people writing necessarily a bunch of different things here in the returned field. You want yes or no, because then when you go to analyze the data, you have really clean data to understand was it returned yes or was it returned no? And there won't be other options in there. So to do that, there's a couple steps that you have to do. The first thing that you have to do is you have to create a different sheet. So you can see here, I'll actually go ahead and do it. So down here, we're working on one sheet right now, right? So just like a book in Excel, you can have multiple pieces of paper. So right now we just have one piece of paper. We call it a sheet in Excel. I'm going to make another one by hitting this little plus sign here, and it's going to make sheet 2. And then up here in the corner, I'm just going to say returned options for data validation. And I'm going to put yes or no. Okay, and that's going to be the only two options. I'm just going to put that there. And we're going to come back and reference these two cells here shortly. So here now, because this is where I want that formatting to be, and I want to use data validation to only give the user that would be inputting data the option for a yes or a no here. And so the first step that I need to do is highlight the area where I want that formatting of only an option of yes or no. So in this particular case, that's cell F2, right? Where F and row 2 meet at, F2 down to F12. And then I want to go up to the data tab here. So normally we're working on the home tab, but now we want to go to the data tab here. I'm going to click on data. And then I'm going to go over here to data tools right here. And I'm going to click on data validation and then click on data validation. So what does it say data validation is? Let's look at it together. when I put my mouse over it, it says you can pick from a list of rules to limit the type of data that can be entered in a cell. For example, you can provide a list of values like 1, 2, and 3, or only allow numbers greater than 1,000 as a valid entry. So in this case, we want to limit it to just a yes or a no. So I'm going to do data validation, and it brings up this little dialog box here. And the dialog box says, what do you want to allow? Any value is the current setting. Notice again, we've highlighted the cells where we want this formatting. So I'm going to click on, I don't want whole number, right? I don't want decimal. I want to select from a list. I want them to only have options that I allow them to have. So I'm going to click on list, and then ask me, where is the list that you want to be the options? So I'm going to click here. And then now it wants me to show it where the list is of options. I'm going to go back to sheet 2, and I'm going to select yes or no. I just selected the 2 cells that include the items in the list that I want. I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. And then I'm going to hit, and notice that it has a couple options here. Ignore blank. I'm going to say no. I want every cell to have a yes or a no. So I don't want them to be able to leave it blank. Let's see what happens here. I'm going to hit OK. And now, as you can see, let me zoom in just a little bit. Here, there is a little drop-down box here. Now, when I come to this column in these cells here, you can see that there's a drop-down box just over to the right. See it right here? So right here for return for the first order, I'm going to just click on that drop-down box and look at my options. It's a yes or it's a no. So I'm just go ahead and click this. I'm going to do this all the way down. I'm going to click yes or no. Now, if I try to put in maybe, if I try to type in maybe and I hit enter, it's going to give me an error. It says this value does not match the data validation restrictions defined for this cell. So I'm going to hit retry. I'm going to click the down arrow. Nope. Click the down arrow, and I'm just going to go down and hit yes or no for each one of these. Okay, so now this data validation has ensured that we have a nice, tight um, return data. I'm going to do the same thing for state here. So we noticed that we only have Virginia or Washington, uh, but I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to go back to sheet 2, and I'm going to make a list called states. And I'm going to put Virginia, Washington. Now, of course, if I wanted to do all the states in the United States, I could put all 50 here. I could totally use that list. Matter of fact, I'll add a few more. Let's do Montana, um, Missouri. I might have spelled that wrong. Kansas, Alaska, Hawaii, um, Florida, Texas, West Virginia, Idaho, and let's do one more, Arkansas. Okay. So I'm going to do that as the states that are options. Now, of course, I could do all 50, but for purposes of demonstration, I'm just going to do a handful today. And so now if I want to do data validation here in the ship to state, because of course we know that there's only 50 possible options in the state drop down, right? And we also don't want people to misspell things. If someone doesn't know how to spell a state and they enter it, it's going to mess up some of the data. So it's always nice to use data validation because you can make sure that your data input is consistent. So again, if I want to use data validation here, I'm just going to click here. These are where I want the options at. I want to go to data, data validation. Again, I want to do it from a list. So I'm going to select list here. Then it wants to know where is the list that are going to be the options for ship to state. I'm going to go ahead and click this, go back over to sheet 2, select the states, hit enter and OK. And now you see that there's a drop-down box again over here. And I'm just going to select the state from, and by the way, notice that it is in the order that it's listed here. So Virginia to Arkansas, notice here in the drop down, it's also Virginia to Arkansas. So if you wanted it to be in alphabetical order, you would need to put this in alphabetical order. Let's see here. Let's see if it refreshes. It did. So I went here and I put it in alphabetical order. And then on my drop down now, it's in alphabetical order too. Alaska, Arkansas, Florida, Hawaii, Idaho, all the way down to West Virginia. So it's a live update, which is really nice. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this out using data validation. Again, let's say that I tried to add a state that we didn't put on there. I tried to type in California. It's going to give me an error because that's not one of the options in the drop down. So I'm just going to go ahead and select them. So we got Virginia, Seattle's in Washington, Richmond is in Virginia, Tacoma is in Washington, Tacoma, Washington, Arlington, Washington, Arlington, Washington, Redmond, Washington, Seattle, Washington, Richmond, Virginia, and Seattle, Washington. Are there any questions about data validation and what it does before we get into using pivot tables to analyze? All right, nope. Sounds good. It's a really useful function. We could do the same thing here if we wanted to make it, I could have used data validation here to only allow numbers to be input, right? Because obviously when you order something, the only possible value is a numeric value. If someone input like a letter, it would mess up my calculations. And so you can use data validation to just ensure again that your data is clean. All right, so let's now transition over to making pivot tables. In our first pivot table, the first step that you want to do, and I'm going to do this pretty quick, and then I'm going to go back and break it down, but I just want to demonstrate how you would do it and what it ends up doing. Let me just scroll out a little bit. So the first step is always to select the data, including the headers up here, these being the headers, the things on row one. And then I'm going to go to Insert, Pivot Table, and then click From Table or Arrange. And it's going to say, where do you want to put your pivot table? So the pivot table is going to be the thing that does the analysis. I'm going to say an existing worksheet. Again, this is a worksheet, also known as a piece of paper. It normally by default wants to put it on a new worksheet. I'm going to just select existing worksheet, and then it's going to ask me the location. I'm just going to click right here for this one. I'm going to hit OK, then I'm going to hit OK. Notice that it kind of drops a blank table there. So let's say we wanted to answer the question, um, what are the value of all the orders by state? So which state had, well, actually, let's use these right here. We'll do these. Which customer had the highest value of orders? So I can click on this. And again, this works using, right now we have an example that has what, 11 orders. There could be hundreds of thousands of orders, and a pivot table can analyze it all in seconds, which is really great. And we'll do an example of that shortly. But for now, let's look at which customer had the highest value of orders. So to do that, I would want to bring down customer ID. I'm going to bring it here. These are the only four unique customer IDs that I have. So if you look over here, you see 11 orders, but it knows, and it's like, oh, well, there's only four unique customer IDs here. And we want to see which customer had the most. So I'm just going to bring order value and bring it over to values. And here we can see that customer 233 had $1,330 in orders. Okay. So it's pretty easy little table. So this is the answer to number one. So this is customer order values. Okay. I'm just gonna put a little highlight on that. There you go. Any questions about that pivot table? It's a really simple, basic pivot table. but I wanted to demonstrate that it can do math for you and really quickly because, for instance, oftentimes, companies are like, hey, I want to know who are our top customers. You can very easily do that with a pivot table. If you have a spreadsheet like this with all the orders, you can easily just grab all those orders, create a quick pivot table, and let's say you had thousands of customers here and you didn't want to scroll through and see the different values. You could just also come here and sort the values in descending order. And then it puts them from your highest customer all the way down to your lowest customer. So that way now it's in numeric order with your best customer being at the top and your lowest value customer at the bottom. Okay. I know I did that quick. I'm going to do it one more time to demonstrate. Let me delete this table. So again, a pivot table is used to do analysis of bulk data. And so step one is to select the data, including again the titles. Step two is to go to the Insert tab here at the top. Step three is click on Pivot Table here, which as you can see in the description, it says easily arrange and summarize complex data in a pivot table. So I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to do existing sheet because it's asking where do I want the table to go. Existing sheet. I want to tell it where I want it. Just move this out of the way. I want it right here. Hit enter and OK. And then as you can see here, there's 4 different areas that you can drag. So you can drag any of these columns. These are the columns, right? See customer ID, order ID, order ID. So these are the columns that are currently available from the table on the left. And I can bring them into a filter. I can bring them into a column, a row, or a value. And I'll have some other tables that we'll build that'll use all of these. But for now, if we just wanted to say which customer had the highest value, I just need to bring down customer IDs and bring order value into the values area. It calculates it for me. I can also sort it by order value and descending, right, from Z to A. Why descending? Because descending will give you the highest value first and the lowest value at the bottom. And by order value, right? Hit OK. And it puts the big one at the top, little one at the bottom. Okay. So that is customer order values. All right, let's make a second one. For this one, we're going to answer the question, which customer returned the highest value of orders? Okay. So we're going to do the same table. I'm going to grab it here. I'm going to go to Insert, to Pivot Table, Existing Table, tell it where I want it, hit OK, and it puts it there. So I'm actually going to create the same table. I'm going to do customer ID and order value. But this time I'm going to bring returned. I want to bring returned into columns, and I want you to watch what happens. Do you see the difference here? So it's showing that this customer here had $905 in orders, 580 was returned, and 325 was not. See, because so now it's turning using this returned label, and it created 2 columns. I'm gonna show you that again. So this was our initial table. So these tables are the same thing, but on the second table, the question is which customer returned the highest value? Which customer returned the highest value? I'm going to use my format painter, do that. So you have to be, by the way, you have to, if you want to adjust a pivot table, you do have to click somewhere in it. Notice that that menu's gone because I'm here in this white cell. As soon as I click on the pivot table, all of these options come back here. So again, I've got my values here. I've got my customer IDs here. But now we want to bring returned and make it into columns. And it's going to, and how many returned options are there? The only option is yes or no, right? So When I bring return into columns, it's going to make a column for each option, a column for no, and a column for yes. So looking at this new table, who can tell me the customer that had the most returns?
233.
Yeah, 233 had $960 in returns. So isn't that interesting? So 233 looked like they were our biggest customer because they had $1,300 in orders, but they returned a lot of it. Maybe they're like buying dresses and going to parties and then they're returning them. I don't know. Or maybe they're buying shoes and they don't like them and they return them. So they actually only ended up having $370 in orders. So actually, this customer, 211, who appeared initially to be our worst customer, they had $666 in orders, but they had no returns. So in actuality, they were our best customer. Does that make sense? Does everyone see that? Because this is actual orders. They did not get returned here.
Mhm.
Hmm. So do you guys see the power of pivot tables and how this can be really useful to summarize bulk data? And I know it's complex, and I do not expect you guys, by the way, to understand this tonight. I'm doing this as a demonstration because I want you to be familiar and know what a pivot table is. So that when someone says, "Oh, can you do a pivot table?" Maybe you can go back to this video and you can review how to do it. There's going to be other videos on YouTube that you could look at. I want you to understand the concept, though, because if you understand the concept, there's lots of videos, including this one, that you'll be able to go back and reference and figure it out. Okay. And by the way, this takes a lot of practice. Till this day, am still learning about pivot tables because they can get very complex. We're doing some basic ones today, just to demonstrate their power, but they can get very complex, but they're also very powerful. I will tell you that if you can do a good pivot table and you get really good at them, you can find yourself a analyst job in most companies, because companies are always using data to inform their decision making. For instance, if you do an advertising campaign, um, let's say in Seattle, Washington, because you think that you have a lot of customers there, you can measure the impact of that advertising campaign by looking at your orders for the 30 days after running that campaign, right? So maybe you spent $1 million on a campaign to advertise in Seattle, for the next 30 days, you can end up looking at the data and use pivot tables to analyze, did my orders increase, um, whatever percent during those 30 days following that advertising campaign. So it's extremely useful to be able to do that. Okay. All right. Let's answer this last one. Which item had the highest count of orders? So this is a different question. It's not asking what had the highest value of orders. It's saying which item. So we have the item codes here. So it's asking which item was ordered the most. Okay. So let's go ahead and do another table. I'm going to go again. So again, highlighting the information. I'm going to do an insert, pivot table. I'm going to do existing sheet. I'm going to put this one over here. I'm going to hit OK. All right. So now let's bring down our item codes. Let's see how we're going to do this here. Order ID. Yeah, I'm going to bring this down here. And I'm actually going to, on this one, bring down order ID as our values. Let's see if I can do this. Do here. And I'm going to do count instead of sum. Let's do this here. I'm gonna make this a 845. So 400. Okay, great. So you can see here uh, that I just created this table. I put item code because we want all the items because we want a list of all the items we've sold. And then in this case, I brought order ID, which is a unique value for every order. I brought order ID down and I counted the number of order IDs for each code. And again, I know this can be a little bit confusing, but let's validate the data. So here it's saying that A45, which is an item code, was ordered 3 times. Let's go back and look. I'm actually gonna sort this a little. You know what? No, I'll just do it like this. A45, A45, A45. It looks correct. So A45 had 3 orders. What other ones do we have? G42 had 2 orders. Let's look at that. Blue. No, blue's a little too easy. Let's go with green. G42 is right here and right here. So we're just validating, and I do this oftentimes. I will spot check the work just to make sure that it's working correctly. And it does appear that, based on the codes that are here and the orders, we can see that A45 had 3 orders and G42 2 orders. So again, this is a small table, but you can see that it can be very powerful if you had millions of orders and you wanted to know what is my most popular selling item. You can quickly run a pivot table and it'll tell you your top sellers right there by count. Because again, maybe it's not by value, but you just want to count how many items were sold of each particular thing. Okay. Any questions on these 3 tables or pivot tables really quick? I'll pause here for a second and give you guys opportunity to ask some questions. None? All right. Let's go take a look at a bigger spreadsheet. Let's go to this one. So here I have a spreadsheet and let's just kind of get it cleaned up a little bit. Okay. So here I downloaded this spreadsheet from, just gonna kind of get things cleaned up. Okay. So now I froze the top row so that when I go down, I can still see the headers. So here I downloaded this spreadsheet from a website called Kaggle, Kaggle. I will put that in the chat if anybody is interested in just kind of playing around with data. You can set up a free account at kaggle.com. And there are lots of different spreadsheets that you can just download and then use that data to play around with pivot tables or charts or whatever you want to do in Excel. Because oftentimes you need some kind of data to work with so that you can play around with it. So this particular spreadsheet has, let's see, how many rows? It has 55,000 uh, orders. These are Walmart orders. So it has the user IDs here, the product IDs. They have some information because these are online orders, so people probably set up a profile. So they have a little bit of information on the gender of the purchaser, their age range, their occupation, the city category. So maybe there's like A is a large city, B is an intermediate city, and C is like a small city. How long have they been in that city? Their marital status is a 1 or a 0. So in computer language, a 1 or a 0 is a true or a false. So marital status 1 would equal married, and marital status of 0 would be a false or a 0. Okay. Product category. So oftentimes, if you go to Walmart, for instance, product category 20 might be furniture, 19 might be groceries. And what other ones do they have in here? Looks like they primarily, oh, here we go. We got some an 8. So maybe that would be, what else did they? Sporting goods or something like that, right? So bottom line is they have a bunch of different product categories. Let me just let my computer catch up here. Okay. And then the price of the order. And so we have some very large orders in this particular case. So someone here, can someone on this call please ask me a question? Maybe something like, what is the top purchasing customer? What item was purchased the most? Did males or females buy more stuff? Maybe what age range bought the most stuff? Can somebody come up with a question for me and then I'll try to answer it with a pivot table?
What age group purchase more of the groceries?
Okay, perfect. I like that. So I'm going to write the question over here just so I remember it. So, what age group purchased the most groceries? And we want to do that by value, right? But do we want to do it by number of orders or do we want to do it by the highest value of grocery orders?
The highest value of
The,
groceries, I
the,
guess.
yep, okay. Highest value of groceries. All right, perfect. Good question. So I'm just gonna do this. This is just helping me remember what the question is here. Okay. So, and let's say that groceries is product category one. Okay. So we see some ones in here. Okay. All right. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is highlight all the data. So if I didn't have this written here, I could just click here and it would highlight the entire table, including all the blank space. Blank spaces are very easy to take out of pivot tables. But because I have this written here, I'm just going to click on A1. And then I'm going to use, let me show you my keyboard. So I'm going to go to A1. I'm going to hit Shift and Control and down. And it highlights everything all the way down to the last row in this table. So notice I'm on row 55,000. No, I'm sorry, 550,069. So there's half a million orders here. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing to highlight again all the way over to column J. So I'm going to do Shift, Control, and right. So now I've got all of my data, all the way from A1, which is all the way up the top right corner, all the way to the bottom right corner, right here, where it is J 550,000 right here. Okay. So I've got all of that highlighted now. Then I'm going to do insert, pivot table, existing worksheet, and then I'm going to go all the way up to the top. And for this demonstration, let's just put our information right here. I'm going to hit OK and OK. All right. Notice that it is a little bit delayed because there's a lot of orders here in this particular table, but we're going to work through it and it's going to be good. All right. So we wanted to see what age group purchased the highest value of groceries. And groceries is product category one. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a filter. Okay. I'm going to bring product category down into the filter. Oh, sorry. Yeah. See what I did. Hold on one second. I got to delete this because I got that writing up there. Let me do that one more time. So I just highlighted all the data again, existing. So the error that I got was it normally likes to put the filter a couple rows above the table, but I didn't have any space because I wrote this here. So I'm just gonna put my table a little lower. I'm gonna put it right there. Okay, so now when I bring product category into filter, it's going to put it right here. Okay. So which category are we filtering for? We only care about groceries, right? What was the
Right.
what was the product category number for groceries?
Number
One.
one.
Yeah, so I'm just going to click on one and hit OK. So now it's only going to show me in the table that I'm going to create, it's only going to include product category one items. Okay. And then we say what age group purchased the highest value. So then my rows, what should be my rows? Age, right? So
Right.
we want to see all the different age groups. Here's our age groups. 0 to 17, 18 to 25, et cetera, et cetera. And then the last thing is the purchase value, right? Because we want to see which age group purchased the most. So I just bring purchase over to values. There's our numbers. Looks like 1.9 trillion was purchased. Let's put it in order so it's easy to see because this is good, but it's a little kind of clunky, some big numbers in there. Let's come here and we're going to sort in descending order because we want to see we want to see the age range that purchased the most, and then in reverse chronological order, right? So we want to see that by purchase value, descending order. Hit OK. And what is the answer to our question? Age group 26 to 35. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we did that with category one. Let's say we wanted to look at a different category. We could easily come back up to the filter and just select eight and do the same thing. In category eight, the highest value was 26 to 35 also. Let's look at category four. Same age group. Category 20. Still the same age group. Let's do category, see if we can find one that's not that age group. It looks like age group 26 to 35 just purchases a lot. Let's do all of them. Yeah, if you look at all of them, if you look at all of the age groups, you can see age group 26 to 35 purchased the most at 2 trillion, and then 36 to 45 purchased the next most. Why do you think this is, by the way? So this is where it gets really interesting when you're looking at data. Why would you think that age 26 to 35 purchased the most at Walmart? Anybody have thoughts? I have a couple thoughts. Does age 26 to 35, do they have young kids?
Yes,
Are
they're
they
fuzzy.
are they buying a lot of like, food for young family? Are they buying diapers, baby formula, all those types of things, right? The things that you go to Walmart to buy in bulk. This age here, their kids are probably a little bit older, maybe even out of the house by the time they hit 45. Um, but typically they're not spending as much money on their kids because maybe their kids now have jobs and they're doing their own thing. And so this is where the data gets really interesting and you can kind of play with it. Maybe we only wanted to see categories one and so I can hit here. Maybe we only want to see categories one and two or one, two, and three. So you can put all kinds of filters on it, and it's going to give you the data based on the filters that you put on it. Okay. Let's say we wanted to put one more filter on it. And I'm sorry, let's say we wanted to add a column and we wanted to break down age group by gender. I could bring gender over here into columns, and it's just going to break it down just a little further. So now we can see where the money's being spent. It's 26-year-olds. Let's see here. Oh yeah, it's the males. Look at the difference within the 26-year-old. So within the 26-year-old range, there's 960 billion in purchases. But look at how much of it was males. According to this spreadsheet, 792 versus 168. Okay. So does this make sense? Does anyone have questions on this? See, all I did was just bring gender down because gender only has two options, male and female. So I was able to get a little bit more insight into not just is it 26-year-olds and 35-year-olds, is it males or females within that gender? We could even go into marital status. Let's bring that down. Marital status looks like it's mostly unmarried 26 to 35-year-olds. Look, 576 billion versus 384 billion for people that are married. Again, according to this spreadsheet. So again, it's analyzing 550,000 rows of information in this nice little neat table for you. It's extremely powerful. I'll pause here for some questions. Anyone? We've got 5 more minutes left. I want to leave the floor open. Are there any other questions you guys have that I can maybe solve with a quick pivot table? Again, just as another demonstration point. So we did this one here where we looked at the highest value of groceries, and oh, we determined that in category one that it was primarily unmarried because we have marital status 0, unmarried 26-year-olds. And we could even bring gender down here too, if we really wanted to break it down. We could go, see here, I put gender above age. Now it's showing a breakdown of female purchasing by age range and male purchasing by age range. So looking at this chart, um, which gender and marital status and age group purchased the most? Looks like this one right here, right? So according to this pivot table, single males
Yeah.
age 26 to 35
Mhm.
are the biggest purchasers at Walmart, with the next one being married males 26 to 35 at 255 billion. Is this helpful, guys? I get excited about this stuff. I think this is fun.
It is because it does count it for us, so
It does all the work for you,
it
right?
does all the
Because
work. Yeah.
all of this data over here is just raw data, and it's really hard to understand like what it actually means. Because and this is called decision sciences. Um, there are pretty much every company out there pays people $100,000 a year or more to do what we're doing right now because they have tons of data on purchasing and orders and all this stuff. I mean, like imagine like an Amazon, right? They have all kinds of order data, and there's probably some manager somewhere that's like, hey, what's our number one selling item during the holidays, or what were our top 10 items during the holidays? And someone's running a pivot table on it, and they're breaking it down, and they probably have metrics like this. They have a general idea of your age. They have a general idea maybe of your marital status if you filled it out when you created your profile. And they can run all kinds of analysis on that to inform them of who their customer is, so then they can make informed decisions on how to advertise to those people. If you know that, for instance, here that your males 26 to 35 are your number one customers, where do you find them and advertise to them? That's going to help you determine where to advertise to them at. Are you going to advertise at a retirement home for Walmart, or are you going to advertise at a sporting event? Well, you're probably going to reach more of your target market if you know your number one customers, males that are unmarried, 26 to 35, where are those people at? They're in bars, they're traveling, they're
Mhm.
probably playing sports. So now you have a much better idea of how to target market to the people who you know are buying your goods. So this informs decisions. So there really are no mistakes when you get an advertisement, that's probably for a reason because some data analyst somewhere determined that you met certain criteria and you were likely to purchase if they sent you maybe a text message or email, because they have all this kind of data that we're talking about right now. I'm excited, guys. I hope you are too. And I know this is complicated. I don't mean for you to, again, try to understand and be able to do these today, but I did want to demonstrate the power of what they can do again. And this is recorded. I'm going to put this up on our YouTube page within the next couple of days. But again, if you want to play around with data and practice your pivot table skills, I would highly encourage it. Set up an account on Kaggle.com. It's free. And let me actually go show you really quick. I think mine is set up with my personal Gmail account. Let me just get in there. Kaggle.com. So see here, so it auto logged me in, but you can see here, I just went to, so this is the home page for Kaggle, and you can just go to data sets. Oh, let's go to data sets here on the left. And I can download a data set on NBA player stats. Let's click it and see what happens. And then hit download right here and download data set. It downloads it to my computer. Then I just gotta unzip it really quick because it just brings it in as like a zipped file. You just hit extract. And here's my data set right here. Open it up. And here you have player names, their team, their opponent, and you have all this data, free throw percentage, rebounds, steals, blocks, um, all kinds of stuff. And this is all the stuff if you ever watch sports like ESPN and so forth, this player has the second most three-point percentage in the NBA, so forth. All of that is because someone is looking at spreadsheets like this and they're running pivot tables on it and they're able to extract data really quickly. So just want to encourage you guys to check that out on Kaggle if you've got some time to play around. That's it. We're a little bit over time. Let me go ahead and stop the recording.